Today we're making some sunflower home decor for summer. Keep watching. I'm Brandy, and this is Making It My Own DIYs. Welcome back. The first project is a crackle frame print. We'll start off with some Java chalk paint and a brush. This is a very dark brown. A sanding block. A sunflower. Beautiful little sunflower. Some leaves. I stole these off my hydrangea. And then I have some of these butterflies that are paper, and they came from Dollar Tree in a big pack. Some of these little corner pieces, we'll need 3 of these. And this is a sticker or a decal from Temu. Not sponsored, not sponsored. Here's the measurement approximately, so you can use whatever print that you have if you want to get decals or window stickers from Dollar Tree or Dollar General. And here's the frame I'm using. This is thrifted. You can see the damage on it that I'm going to do a little repair on. Looks like somebody DIY'd already with it, but we're going to clean it up. No problem. And then this is just a piece of heavy cardboard, I guess, or I don't know. It's almost had a plastic coating on it. I've been using it to spray paint with, but we're going to use it for this. And then I'm going to use some E6000, the glue gun, the heat gun, all the typical little things we use. I'll heat up all of this glue residue that's on here, and then I'll take my scraper and I'll just scrape off, anything I need to scrape off on here. Clean it up, make it almost good as new to use in our next project. I don't want to leave any of this stuff on here. Then I'm going to give it a good sanding. Now this is more of a farmhouse style piece, and I'm just going with that. Like rustic, and most of the things that we're making today will be rustic. So I hope this tickles your fancy today. We're going to sand off both sides, of course. This is sort of a rough wood, like it was handmade. So I'm just going to go in and sand everything so I don't hurt my fingers, right? Injured fingers for a crafter who has a YouTube channel is bad. It's very bad. I don't want to hurt myself because I need to keep putting that content out that I promise you I'm going to put out twice a week, right? All right, I'm just going to use some spackle. You can use wood filler, but I feel like the spackle does a good enough job for me to fill in the cracks around the edges because it is not completely flush. I don't want anything to interfere with the finish we're going to be doing later, so I'm just showing you how easy it is to fill this in. The lightweight spackle that I have there is from Dollar Tree. Once it's dried, you want to sand it all down too, get it all nice and smooth. And then once it's dry, I'm going to go over it with my Java chalk paint. You can use acrylic paint if you would like. I think that you can crackle on acrylic paint. I'm not completely sure, but hey, if you're on a budget, grab some of the chalkboard paint that is black from Dollar Tree and give that a whirl. See what you can do with that. We're going to take school glue. I do have a crackle medium, but I'm using the school glue because pretty much anybody has access to school glue, right? So I'm going to take a chippy brush, just a rough textured brush here, and I'm going to start putting down my glue. Now, it is my understanding that the more glue, the heavier glue you put there, the heavier the crackle. And the lighter the crackle. I really couldn't tell you for sure. I've never done an experiment and put anything side by side. But I did notice that in some sections it was lighter, in some sections it was heavier. You can be the judge of that yourself, right? So I'm just going to add this on that dry chalk paint. Put this all over smoothly on the sides. It really doesn't matter when you put the glue down, in my experience, what direction you go in or anything, as long as you get it on there. And the technique that I use, I found on Pinterest, so I'm just going to go with that. And before it dries, we want it to still be wet. I'm going to grab some ivory chalk paint, pour a little out so it's easier to work with. Now, from what I read, because I had a little trouble with crackling, I don't know, in a probably a recent video, and I didn't get the crackle that I wanted. So my understanding is, first off, I thought, okay, you can only go in one direction, and that's it. So I was leaving pieces that weren't covered because I was afraid I would get it messed up. But then in this other one, I saw that as long as you don't mix the paints. So it's in the amount of pressure you put in your brush. So as long as I'm not mixing that upper layer into the glue underneath, then it should work fine. And I'll go ahead and tell you, spoiler alert, it worked beautifully on this piece. Beautifully. So, you know, do whatever technique you like, and you don't have to do crackle if you don't want to. You can do one solid color if you don't like a rustic finish. So, enough said. I feel like I went on too long about the crackling, but I feel like it's important for those who are just learning. Now I'm going to take my heat tool here and go over it. And I don't want to get too close because it will bubble. I did learn that. Not the hard way, because it's not a bad thing when it bubbles. It actually does give it more aging. But see the crackle on the bottom? You can see where it's starting to pull apart. So the glue and the paint are separating down there. And you can see the amount of time it takes to do this. It's heavier on the edges. So I'm going to focus a little more time there to get it to crackle. And you can see that, oh, I love it. I love that. That's so silly, right? But I don't know. I love that. I think I just love everything I do as a crafter. Even when I do things and I make a mistake, there's always an opportunity to learn something from it, right? So I encourage you to always try to make something your own. Don't try to be like everybody else, and don't ask for permission. You know, just get started. If you want to get started, just get started. Jump in there and do it. It's paint, it's glue, it can be sanded off, it can be painted over, right? Look at the finish. I absolutely love it. Now it is not completely dry, so I'm going to go ahead and go around. And this, instead of crackling this, I'm just kind of lightly dragging the brush and paint over the inside, and then I'll paint the back side as well. I want it to have a nice finished look. Okay, so the front of this is nice and clean. It's a papery texture, and we're going to put this down on here. I thought this would be a good idea because it's not cardboard, like a heavy cardstock that's coated on the back, I guess you could say. And for one thing, I'm recycling something that I used for something else. Obviously, it was trash, so this is a trash into treasure. And just to show you that, you know, you can use what you have. You don't have to rush out and buy something new, right? So this fit, and I had already cut it down to be the right size. And I'm just going to drop it down and start putting it in place, right? And don't be disturbed by the fact that the back of it is green spray paint, because I'm going to go over it and paint it with that Java. So don't be worried about that. I'm going to clean it up on the back. You got to be careful when you put down decals. For me, if I put it down sort of in the middle first, I kind of stand above it, see where my center is, and then put the center down, and then let one side drop as I hold the other side. Probably sounds confusing, but that's kind of how I do it, and I do this all the time, so maybe that will be something helpful for you as well. But look how pretty it is. And this allows us to have a backing, and I don't have to do a separate backing, right? It's a nice, secure, thick, heavy piece that I don't have to add extra backing to. How perfect is the crackle finish to that? I love it. So here's that ugly old backside. I am going to go into each of the corners here. Now I'm just trying to make sure that it's where it needs to be, holding on to it while I flip it over so it's in place. And then I'll slightly lift up by holding it. See, I'm holding like the side of my hand to hold it in place so nothing slides. And then I'm going to put like an X in each corner and press it down. So here's the second corner. Put like a little X there and press it down. You can do it any way you want to, but this way I'm not having a bunch of glue that's spraying out. And once that's done, I'm going to go along the edge of it with my glue gun to just kind of seal it. Yes, I have a staple gun, and yes, I could have used a staple gun, but for those of you who don't have one, the glue will work, okay? Now I'm going to take my little sunflower and just show you here on this. The sunflower is fine like it is, but if you have a wrinkled flower that you're using, or it's out of shape or bent or twisted, you can just use a little bit of heat from a blow dryer or a heat gun like I have, and just blow dry it, and it irons the pieces out like new. Now here is a cloth that I had already been using to antique some things, and it already had the antiquing wax on it. It's just a wet wipe, so it's a little bit damp. It's going to let me move that color around a little bit, and I just wanted to go over the top and age it just slightly. So I put it on there and went back with a clean wipe that is also damp and rub it down into the cracks. So now it gives it a little more of that aged look. It's a little more convincing. And now we're going to start adding the flowers and the embellishments. Now, by all means, if this is too much for you and you just want to go with the frame print, you can absolutely do that. But you know, in the summertime, you just want, I don't know, you just need a little something, right? And I can't get enough of fall colors. And since sunflowers kind of were one of those flowers that goes from summer into fall, I'm all in. I am all in with the sunflowers and the oranges and the yellows and the monarch butterflies, and I just love it all. So I'm going to take some glue and put it right over the part that is going to be overlapping onto the frame. Settle it in the corner over the top of one of the leaves, and then I'll trim down that second leaf just a little bit, and I'm going to glue it right underneath the flower. So it looks like it is just blooming out of the side of the frame. And I like that. Now we're going to grab some of those end pieces or corner pieces, and I'm just going to use glue. They came with some tiny nails, but my fingers, even as small as my hands are, there's no way I'm going to hold that nail and hammer it. I would smash every finger on my hand. So I'm just going to use some hot glue because, you know, this isn't doing heavy duty work. This is just an embellishment. And I like the little extra bit of richness that it brings to it. But like I said, leave it off if it's not something that you want to do. You could also put this down first and crackle over it. But for me, I like it on the outside. Make it your own. Always make it your own and save money where you can. You know, my videos are about inspiring you and showing you how you could do things. And I talk to you about it. Some people don't like the chattiness, but I like to encourage you and make you feel secure in your crafting journey, right? Okay, so these I used on a different project, and I've just taken them off to use them again just to save time. But all I did on this is went over it with a cloth and some antique wax to kind of dull them down and to make them brown on the back instead of that crisp white color. But you can do it any way you want. They come in a big, big pack, Dollar Tree, near the garden section. That's where they were in my store. And they're beautiful. And there are pink ones and green ones and blue ones and the monarch color, so you can just choose whatever you like. Now, bending them in half will give them a little bit of what I like to call movement, make them look like they're a little more realistic. And then I'm going to set them down on top of the corners, the flower, just wherever you think you want to put yours, so it looks like they're flying out of the picture. And then the last one right here, so we're doing 3. And they're white in the center because sometimes the glue does not want to stick to the wax. So that's why I left them white in the center. And you don't see that part once it's glued down. And you can see here at the back, I painted it so it's nice and finished. And then for a hanger, you can use the little simple jute hanger here. You can use the soda can top here that Trish and Kay like to use. You can use some hardware because it is wood on the other side. Whatever you like to do, whatever you have had luck with, you can go ahead and use that. Then I'm just going to put a little piece of cork on there to hold it in place. And we have a lovely little summer piece for our home. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up so I know to keep doing the type of material that you like to see. I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel. I'm working on a silver play button, hopefully by October 31st. If you would like to be a part of that and help me, then I would appreciate that very, very much. And I promise in return to continue to put out the types of things that you like to see here on the channel and encourage you along the way. And you can watch my videos on Monday and Thursday at 6 p.m. The next project is a wood bead wreath. So I've got some ribbon here. This I thrifted. It's sort of a greenish blue, and it matches the bottom of the little piece that we have here. And the polka dot ribbon, yellow and white. Beautiful. These are both wired ribbons. Some floral wire. I'm also going to be using some jute. Here's the Dollar Tree wood bead wreath. A lot of people don't know how to use these, so I'm going to give you an idea here. And then I got this little piece here from Temu. Beautiful. Looks like stained glass to me. Look how pretty it looks with that wood. Very complimentary. So there's a hole on the top and there's a hole on the bottom. I'm going to show you two options for yours. You can use a little bit of floral wire, which initially I thought I would use. Preferably a very, very thin piece. This was just entirely too thick. Perhaps I could have painted it, maybe spray painted it, but you know, I'm going to show you an easier option. But if you have wire, a thin wire that you want to use, it's very easy to do. You just fold it in half, and then you'll use that to twist onto the wire part up there and in the center of the bottom. We're going to do it with some jute. So I'm just going to cut a length of jute. I'm going to cut it in half and have two pieces that are a little bit easier to work with. These are about 10 inches a piece. We're going to be trimming a good deal of this off, but I like to start with a little more than I need because it's just easier. If you have a fray in your ribbon, or in your jute rather, go ahead and add a little bit of cool temp glue and twist the end. Now you get a nice point. You can feed it right through those holes. So then I'm going to go under the wreath, and now it is in both pieces, or you know, in that middle piece and then over the wreath. And then I'm going to do the same thing in the bottom. I'm going to feed it up through there and then have it on either side. So now you just pretty much need to find your center where it is pretty much in the middle. This is going to sort of float in between, in the middle of that wreath. It gives it a very pretty look, I think. I'm going to lightly tie it on the bottom, lightly tie it on the top until I get the right position. Then I can do my double knots to make sure nothing moves. And be sure you're holding it still when you tie those knots so that you don't change the position. And that'll help you keep it in the center. So now I'm going to go to the bottom, and you can put that right in between the wooden block pieces. You have enough room that you can kind of slide it around. So tying it there, and then we can trim off all of the excess and turn those knots to the back. Just like so. Easy, easy. Okay. Now, if you want to use a little hot glue to hold those knots in place on the back side, you can certainly do that. And I didn't want mine to move around because it's not, you know, centered between two pieces at the top. It's just sitting on that wire piece. To keep it from moving, I'm just going to add a little hot glue to the side of it. But we're going to cover up that little wire, so no worries. Now the hanger, I'm just going to kind of straddle it over that top so that it hangs in the center. Then I'll use a piece of that to wrap around and disguise that wiring that holds this wreath together. Just going to wrap it around, wrap it around. You could also use the plain wood and just paint it, or you could use it plain, depending on what you want to use in the middle. Now these round pieces do come from Temu. Again, I'm not sponsored. I just enjoy using them. It's a great value for the look that you get. You can use any round piece you want. Okay? So just use your imagination, get the inspiration, and just go crazy with it. So now we're going to cut 6-inch pieces of this beautiful bluish green color. Teal maybe? What do you think? It's got kind of a gray hue to it. And then we're going to cut 6 inches here. And I'm just using this so I don't have to keep referring to the ruler. Easy enough. Cut a little too much off that, so I'm just going to fix it real quick. And then we're going to dovetail, which is folding it over and cutting toward the wire, just at an angle. I really need to sharpen my scissors. They are getting so sad. So sad. They're losing their edge. All right, so we're going to continue along until all of those pieces are beautifully finished with a dovetail. We all know how to dovetail now, don't we? Yes. Okay, so now we have the 4 pieces. We'll put those on the bottom, and then we'll add these on the top. And then I remembered that I have another ribbon that I think would look good with this. So I went and grabbed it. This I got for 90% off last year at Hobby Lobby. With the fall decor, you know. Very pretty. Love it. It's going to add definitely a little more rustic to there. So I've dovetailed those at the same 6 inches, and I'm just going to start layering these back on top. They're all wired ribbons, which really is going to make a nice little topper or a little bottom section for this little wreath we're doing. So we're going to grab it and walk our fingers toward each other in the middle. It's going to look kind of bunched up and silly as you're bunching it up and you're tying it off. But don't worry about that, because you are going to be fixing that. There's so much of a difference that can be made in fluffing a bow. So much. So we've got our little stack piece here, all of our little stacks of ribbons, and then you can just start pulling things around and making them look beautiful. I wanted to use jute in the middle because we're going to use it to tie it down. You can put the bow here, or you can put the bow here. So I decide I'm going to put my bow on the bottom. And actually, you can do it to the side. You can put it wherever you want. And what if you can't find a little metal piece to go in the center? Think about finding maybe an 8-inch little round somewhere, and that's wood, and putting Mod Podging something on top of it and using that, or using a decal on it and using it that way. You could do that. You could totally do that. All right, you can add a dot of glue to hold that in place once you get it fluffed out. And I love that because it has wire, you can see each and every pattern in the ribbon. Then I decided we're going to do a little something different on the top. So I'm going to show you something a little different. I'll cut this off, and this is probably 6 inches as well. We're going to dovetail it, and I'll show you a different option for a bow. Are y'all feeling more confident in your bows these days? How's everybody feeling? All right, so we're going to give the piece underneath an extra inch on each side to make it a little bit bigger. Then we'll dovetail that. You can see already that you can see the different colors right there. The one that is underneath is going to be a little bit bigger than the one next to it. We're going to dovetail that, and then we'll stack it up. When you do it this way, you can see before you start to squish them together each and every pattern. So this is another option for you if you'd rather do it this way. Go right to the center, pinch it all up. Grab that jute, put it on the front, flip it over, and then tie your double knot in the back. And now you have this type of a little bow. And because it has wire, you can flex the ends of it. You can give it that little bit of movement. You don't have to leave your bows just laying flat. Give them some dimension. Give your piece some dimension. It gives your eye something to look at. It keeps people interested. It keeps your brain active. So that's what you want to do, right? You don't want it to just blend in with everything else and disappear. You want it to be something that you can look at and it can bring you some joy. You know I'm all about that joy, y'all. I'm all about the joy. I may not say it as often in my videos as I used to, but it is all about the joy that it brings you, right? Yes. This is a cute little piece. It is not huge. It is small. This would look great anywhere in your home, in my opinion. And what a beautiful little ray of sunshine a sunflower is. And there's a bee on it too, y'all. Got lots of bee videos. I just think that this is a very affordable, pretty little piece with a lot of impact. Thank you to all of my channel members. I appreciate you guys so very much for your patience and your support. Love you. Mwah. The next is a light up sign. We're going to use some baby wipes, some antiquing wax, a little piece here from also Temu. It's 6 inches approximately. Some nautical jute rope from Dollar Tree. Some string lights. Little fairy lights. This is just a little wooden plate that I have. I'm going to take that off the back and remove any of the residue. I've got my drill here. I'm going to unwind a section of this, and I am going to take the backing off of my beautiful little stained glass piece, which is actually acrylic. I don't think everybody realizes that it actually peels off the back, so you have two pretty pieces, a matte finish and a shiny finish. And it does come with a hanger, so you could hang it up, but we're going to do something different. So I'm just going to raise this off the table while I use my drill. That's why I'm using little stones underneath. And then I'm going to make sure that the drill bit is the right width for me to feed the fairy lights through. So I'm going to drill down just one hole. I'm going to drill down into it and back out. And then I'm going to go same thing on this side, down into it and then back out. And then I sand off the little splintering that always comes along when you use when you're, working with wood. I thrifted this piece, so I'm not sure where it came from, but I bet you could find something at Hobby Lobby. Just go past the bedding and the spa decor. It's getting kind of ridiculous in there, y'all. Getting kind of ridiculous. All right, so I'm going to take that rope, and I'm going to use this sort of my clippers to cut these off. Whatever you have to cut your rope, go ahead and do it. The reason I'm using this thick rope here is because we need something to hold the top off of this piece so that we can wrap around our fairy lights. So I'm going to grab just plain old hot glue and put this in place with the hot glue. I'm using Gorilla Glue, but you use whatever you have. You could use super glue, I guess. You could use any type of glue you want, but the super glue is quicker, and I don't have time to let it dry. So the hot glue is going to be the best option when I'm doing these videos for y'all. Any glue that I get, any residue, I'm just going to wipe it off. Now you want to be careful with this. I should have been a little more careful with the glue and where I put it, because it's hard to get antiquing wax to stick onto glue, but I go over it with some, I'll explain it to you when we get there, okay? I'm jumping a little bit. Okay, so we're going to continue around. Just follow that circle around here, all the way back around to the starting point. And then if you need to trim anything else up, you can trim it up. You can also twist that rope and put some hot glue inside of it, like right into the end of it, to clean up your edges as well. Just add it and just poke it down in there so I don't have any frays showing on the outside. If it frays toward the inside, not a problem, but we don't want it fraying toward the outside. Okay? So now I'm just going to kind of take away any of the little glue strings and soften up any glue bubbles that I have so I can easily wipe those away with a little wooden stick over there. Just cleaning this up. That's what I'm doing. Also, if you get too close, it will burn the wood and the rope, so just be careful. You can use a hairdryer for this, y'all. Now, I'm getting the wipe, and I am going to grab some of that antiquing wax, and I'm going to go over this whole thing. You can water down some paint and make a stain if you would prefer. That might have been the better option here. I love my antiquing wax, y'all. I love it, and I love layering it, and I love the look that it gives. So I'm going to continue around, all the way around on the sides, and I'll also be doing the back as well. And the reason I'm using the baby wipe here is because it makes the wax a little more sheer, so I can still see the wood grain that's underneath. So in every little section that has like there's a lip on the edge of the plate, I'm making sure that I use my finger down on the edge of that and pressing it down into there. Now see, I went over it with wax, but just imagine that that's the Java paint, because I had to go back over it. So you're going to take your Java paint that we used on the other project with a thin brush and just go in there and align all the way around. That's going to cover up any glue and make it matte so you don't notice it. It will kind of recede into the back. Now go over the back. You can see how that looks, and we're going to let everything dry. On the inside, we're going to use a white paint because that's going to help the light reflect. I clean up my little dot there, don't worry. That's going to help the lights reflect and really shine through that stained glass. Y'all, I appreciate you so much, and I thank you for coming by my channel today, whether I was referred by YouTube or by a friend, or if somebody shared my video on social media. I appreciate you being here so much. And I hope you find value in something you see today. Okay, so now we're going to feed that all the way through until the back of the lighting is right up against the back of the plate. I do get my string lights from Temu because you can get like a 10 pack for very cheap. And the back is so small that it's easy to disguise rather than a huge battery pack, right? So we're just going to pick a spot where we want to put the glue. I don't want to put it on the side with the battery. And I'm just going to stick it down. Now this is going on top of the antiquing wax, so this is not something that's going to be permanent at all. It will come off at some point. That's okay. I like to recycle my things anyway. So I'm going to go over here with some hot glue and snug that wire right up against that rope. Okay, so what I was getting at, if you want to use some super glue on the back of your light control box, then use some super glue or E6000 so that it will stick down to the wax with no problem if you want this to be something that's permanent or really heavy duty, okay? The way I said it sounded awful, but I had a point to get to, right? I'm sorry, y'all. If I'm hard to follow sometimes, I don't mean to squirrel out on y'all, but sometimes I do. Okay, we're going to continue around, and I'm just tucking it in there. Use your finger protectors or use a cool temp glue. Nobody needs to be burned. And you can push this into there, and if you'd be patient, it will actually grab into that glue. I was just trying to hurry up and get it done. So I'm going to wrap until I'm all the way back to the beginning. You could see how it is going to look. I'm going to clean up all my little spider webs. Probably not completely necessary because you're not going to see it under there, but it bothers me, so I'm going to clean it up. Now, I'm going to put the shiny side down so the light reflects and it glows better. That's my way of thinking anyway. And it's going to go right on the top of that rope. You see, the rope just supplied us another layer to have the space to put down a reflective sort of background and a string of lights. That's why we use that. I'm going to add hot glue, or you can use E6000 or some Fix-All, whatever you want to use. And I'm going to press this down. I'm going to try to center it by eye and just press it down. I've got some of this leather looking ribbon that I got from Dollar Tree forever ago. I don't know if they still carry it, but use your imagination and use whatever you want here. I like the rustic look of this though. I'm going to loop it through a curtain, I don't know, a curtain loop, I guess you could call it. And then I'm going to squeeze the ends together. I do cut off about 1 inch of that. You can see it laying there to the side because it was a bit too long because, you know, me and the math. And then I'm going to glue the piece on the back. And you can glue your pieces together if you would like. And this is how she's going to look when it's lit up. So this is how it looks when it is not lit. Still a beautiful piece, right? Can you imagine this on a screened back porch? Beautiful piece all by itself. Very rustic, very pretty for summertime. And then at nighttime, you can surprise your guests by just flipping on the little switch on the back, and it's going to glow while you're sitting on your porch. Very pretty. I hope you like this idea. I have lots of videos where things light up, you know, the light up decor, and it always brings me so much joy to make them. The next is a storage box. So here is a book box. I have used these in many videos. I did buy probably 8 of them. Originally from Target. I think they were like $5 pieces, but I got them at a store called Dirt Cheap for 50 cents. And then I'm going to use some big glue sticks. They're the Vanishing Purple. Squeegee, of course. Also a Ziploc bag you don't see. This napkin. And a page from a calendar. All sunflowers. And if you look on the bottom, you can see the artist, and it is from an old calendar. This came from the Crafty Cruise Getaway. We did a napkin exchange. Yes, and we got lots of beautiful napkins. If you're interested in learning about the Crafty Cruise Getaway, I encourage you to follow the link that we have in the description box and go check out what we're going to be doing in 2025. Y'all missed a lot of fun, y'all. It was so much fun. And by the way, I want to say hi to everybody who went on the cruise who was here watching today. Hi. I'll see you in 2025. Okay, now we're going to take that napkin apart. This one happens to have 2 layers on the back. Second layer I had a little bit of a hard time getting off. So I saw a trick, I think on Crafty Cousin's channel, where you put a piece of tape on there and then you can kind of separate your pieces. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a try, and I'd be doggone. Look how easy that came off. Right away, it comes right away. I hope my country slang doesn't bother y'all, because that's just who I am. You're always going to get who I am on this channel. And I know that there are people out there who are my tribe and who appreciate me for my silliness. And if you don't, that's okay. You know, as long as you're watching and getting something from the channel, that's totally okay. I appreciate you being here as well. So I'm going to roughly measure how much I'll need for that back panel and go ahead and just cut a rough piece out. Now, cut it a little bit larger. Obviously, you don't want to cut anything too short. It's a little bit hard when you have to patch things together, so going a little bit larger is better. I thought I would give you a different option rather than Mod Podge this time, and it does dry quicker. So I'm going to use the glue stick. I have done this many times on this channel. It is very easy to use a glue stick to do Mod Podge, and you don't get a bunch of bubbles and stuff like that. Still have to be careful and cautious, you know, but for the most part, it works great. Go along all of the edges too. We want to be sure nothing tries to peel away when we are sanding it later. And then I'll start to put the piece down. I don't want that gold edge or that yellow edge to be in there, so I'm trying to make sure it's overhanging on the edge and that all of the feet, well, both of the feet are covered at the bottom, and then pull it up to the edge on the top. I'm just going to lightly tap with my fingers to hold it in place. I'm going to grab a Ziploc bag, put it on my hand, and just start kind of pressing this down. I saw somebody use like a wad of saran wrap or something, like plastic wrap, but I didn't have any, and I thought, well, why don't I just use a Ziploc bag? It works. It works great. The reason you do this is because the tissue or the napkin or whatever you're using becomes so fragile when it gets when you stick it down. It becomes very fragile, and you don't want to tear any part of that pattern. And I'm just lightly rubbing this on, by the way. You can see the squeegee that's in my hand. I'm just lightly rubbing it on. I'm going to let that dry for a little while. It's not completely dry. You can see there's still some purple there, but to start showing you how you would want to do this. Then I'm going to sand downward and just peel that off. Peel it right off. Now, if yours is dry, you're not going to have to worry. You know, you can, it's going to peel away easier. I'm trying to be extra careful because it's still damp in some spots. I'm going to go around the edges because I want the beautiful feet on the back to be covered with the paper as well. So using this little sander, I can get into those corners. You can see how it turns great in those corners. I also got this little sanding block from Temu. Again, not everybody wants to use Temu, so you just Google where you can get a finger sander and you can get one. And I'm sure you can get it from Amazon. I'm sure you can. All right, so now same thing, glue stick. I'm going to go over the side, and we're going to be using just one napkin for the whole project. So I didn't have to use a second napkin. We had plenty. If you're careful with it, it will cover it. Now, what if you don't have the box I have? Well, that's okay. You don't have to use the box I have. You can get any box you want. It doesn't have to have a slanted back. It doesn't have to have the same dimensions. It doesn't have to be footed. You can use anything you have, and you could actually probably use the little wooden crates from Dollar Tree to make it on a smaller scale. Yep. So again, going along and taking the paper off. This piece is almost completely dry. I wanted it to have a rustic look, so I left it the light wood color underneath. But if you want it to be even brighter, go ahead and paint this piece, your wooden piece first when you put it down, because it has a white backing on it and it'll really make everything pop. But for me, following that rustic idea and the rustic theme, I'm just going to leave it like it is. See how crisp the edge is? You don't have to worry about pulling off the edges if everything's dry. And you can butt those pieces right up to one another, and just be careful when you're sanding it. Take your time. And you almost want to go at like a 45-degree angle. Now I'm going to do, it's sort of like sealing your edges. Add a little thing of glue here, right down the edge, and this, push it down with my fingers, and then go around my edges here. And then I'll do the same thing. I'm going to take that glue and go around the edge. And every time a piece meets another piece, I'm going to be adding some of that glue and just kind of rubbing it down with my finger to make sure that everything is secure. This is so pretty to me. And then have a big pretty picture in the front. I love this. And this was a spur of the moment idea, but I just love it. I'm not measuring, I'm eyeballing it. You know how we do on this channel. And I'm just going to kind of push it down so I know where I want to trim off any excess. This is a nice thick calendar page. You can, well, I know I can. I don't know if every store, every Goodwill store does it, but at our Goodwill bins, they often have calendars that are donated. And even if they're calendars that are already written in, it doesn't matter if you want the prints out of them. And I have seen some beautiful calendar prints. I don't know what Dollar Tree is doing these days with their calendars, but I'm seeing a lot of repeats. But a thrifted calendar, All right, now I'm going to go over it with my little squeegee and press it down. This you can be a little bit tougher with because it's not tissue. It's not as fragile, but just still, you know, you don't want to tear your piece up. You want to be gentle with it. But I can use a little more pressure and I can be a little more footloose and fancy free, if you will. Making sure that it's stuck down to the feet too. I am going to just see where I'm feeling where the edge is and just cut that excess off. Just in case anything was lifted when I lifted it up to cut it, I'm going to just go back over it with the squeegee, secure everything down, and then I'll start sanding this paper away. You could use the front of a magazine. You could probably, I don't know if I would use a magazine page because you'll have the print coming through probably. But there are all different ways you can do something like this. Look at that. Nice crisp edge. I love that. It's the little things, y'all. It's the little things. Oh, I like that. I like that very much. And yes, I do realize that the garden sign is not completely level. Maybe it's sitting on a hill. We don't know. We don't know what's going on in that bird's life. We don't know. Now, going around the edges again with that purple, just to make sure everything is sealed down. Now, the purple does, you know, it does fade. If I didn't mention that already, it's going to fade. It's not going to be a highlight in the piece. And once it's dry, you won't see it at all. All right, you know, waste not, want not. I'm going to grab that extra sunflower that we had on there, and I am going to fussy cut all the way around it, leaving a slight little border of green around each one of the petals. This kind of highlights it. You know, you could use a little finger dauber if you wanted to go around the edges of it if you wanted, but I like the idea of having the green in the background. You can see here. And then I'm going to use this on the backing. Yep, a little surprise element. I don't think I want it in the center though. I think I'm going to do it on the side. It looks a little more balanced, right? Grab that glue stick again. I'm going to go over the back of here rather than putting it all over the box. Just kind of hold it with my finger and go all the way around. Easy enough to do. And then I am going to line that top up. This is where I had originally cut it. Or it was the edge of the page. I'm not exactly sure what that was. And then I'm going to lightly push away from the center and have that beautiful little pop of color right on the inside of the box. Y'all may have some of these boxes at your house that you haven't used. I know a lot of people will start a hoard thinking they're going to do something and they never get an idea of what to do with it. So perhaps this is the time to get that box out and do a little something on it. I have done this box in about 3 or 4 different ways now. I absolutely love all of them. So what are you going to do with the box now? Let's take a good look at it as it is. Are you feeling inspired? Are you thinking of ways that you can decorate this box? Because I'm going to show you 2 ways that you can use this in your own decor. Maybe you put some candles in it, flameless of course, and some ferns or some flowers. You could put some sunflowers in here if you wanted. Or maybe you could use it for storage in your craft room if you craft in the basement like I do, where you never see flowers unless they're artificial. So I'm just putting my beautiful brushes that a viewer sent to me right in this box for display and storage. The next is a breadboard. We are going to use some ivory chalk paint. Pretty color. Squeegees, of course. I'm going to use this board, which also was one of those Target things that, you know, was out of season. And Essential Stencil transfers. Here's the information, y'all. This isn't sponsored by them either, and these are stencils they sent me last year or the year before, and I have not used them yet. So this is the perfect opportunity to break these out and use them. I'm also going to be using 2 of the bees. I'm very excited about that. So I'm going to take my piece here and I am going to go over it. Now, it felt like it was pretty smooth when I put the chalk paint down, so I didn't sand it, and I'm going to go over it. I'm not going to put it on the edges or the backside, and I'm not using the backside of that. I'm just going to forget that it's a candle holder on the back, and it's going to be against the wall somewhere. If you do get a little bit of paint on there, once it dries, you can sand it off. And that's what you see me doing, is just kind of getting that off on the overhang, because we're going to do something a little different on the sides. Now, it's rough feeling. It's very rough between the paint and the wood. Now it seems like the texture has picked up or lifted a little bit. So I'm just going to sand back over it and make it nice and smooth, because when you're using a transfer, putting it down on a smooth surface makes a lot of difference. I want it to be smooth, and I want it to adhere all the way on a flat surface. So just going over it with my little sander here, and then I will wipe away all of that residue. You don't want to leave any residue on there. Dust gets in the way and interferes with the sticking process. So now I'll choose what pieces I want to use on my little board. I like the idea of using this one and putting it a little bit sideways. I like this. So you just peel your transfer off the backing. Don't put it down. So you're going to see me just holding it above the board till I find the right placement, because once you put it down, it's a little sticky on the back and it's going to already start to stick onto your project. You don't want to have to lift it and then mess your print up. So once it is exactly where I want it to be, I'll push it down, just kind of, you know, drag my fingers a little bit across it to hold it in place until I get my little tool here. And this tool is what comes when you buy their transfers. This is the tool that they send. So this is what I'm using. Now I have to say, this is plastic, and I don't care for this as much as I do a wooden piece or the one that you get from IOD. They have like a acrylic sort of stick, and it is much better. So if you have that, use that. But I'm just showing you how to do it with the tool that came with the piece, in case that's all you have. Make sure you go over all the details, all the little leaves, every little petal on the flowers. That's what you see me doing there. Now you see to the right that little wooden piece? That little wooden stick over there is what I use for the finer details when they don't want to come up. I'll go over it with that wooden piece. You can use a popsicle stick for this though. The part that is still on the backing actually is the part that is on the overhang, so it's not necessary to leave it. I'm going to lift slowly so I can press down anything that looks like it's trying to stick on that backing instead of coming up. Around the edges, I'm just going to press it down, and then we can do something else with it. Okay, so I'm just going to use this. This is part of the stencil paper, and I'm just going to use that to rub it down. I didn't want to use the original carrier sheet, the one that's on top. Clear one is what you would normally use, but it still had some pieces on it that I didn't want to interfere with my print. And now I'm going to choose another piece, and I'm going to choose this smaller piece here with the, does that look like camellias to you? The pink ones, they look sort of like camellias. They're very pretty though. And I'm going to add this up here. Now again, holding it above until I find where I definitely want it. And then I'm going to place it down. Rub it down with my fingers. Just kind of hold it in place for a minute. And then I'm going to press it down and get it all over the piece, and then use the wooden piece. I'm just doing this to show you, you know, if you've got a popsicle stick you want to use, definitely go for the popsicle stick. Seems like the wooden pieces in the acrylic work much better than the plastic ones, you know, just in my opinion. Just a little something for you if you're having problems getting your stencils to stick down. But get your stencils anywhere you want to. You don't have to use these, you know. But I thought they were really pretty for this project. And then I'll gently peel this one off. And it comes off pretty clean. That's always a satisfying thing. Very pretty. And then you always want to rub over the top, always, to make sure everything is stuck down the way it should be. And then I've chosen 2 little bees that I'm going to add onto the flowers. I love a stencil that has a lot of options in it because you can choose, you can layer them and really make it your own. So it's not like everybody else's, right? You're going to have a little bit of difference. And if you make things to sell them, look at all the different ways you can specialize them to make them a little bit different than the other ones, right? You can have bees everywhere. You can have some with 1 bee. Perhaps you want to do one that has no bees. Think of all the pieces. Think of all the pieces you could create. Now we got a pretty bee sitting right there on the sunflower. This one already came with the bee. We're going to add a little something extra, and we're going to put a bee right on that black-eyed Susan. Put her right down there. Do you know we have black-eyed Susans that grow along the sides of the road here where I live, and they are beautiful. I love them. They're so playful, and when the wind blows, they just sway in the wind. I don't know. I'm so corny sometimes. So we're going to take that antiquing wax with a finger dauber because I have precise control with this. But you can also use a foam brush if you want to. And I'm going to go around the edge with this. Now I'm offloading a pretty good bit of the paint. I don't want it to be really dark, but I do want to have it where it's blended and it's a little bit darker. It's a little richer looking than that plain wood. You could also use any type of paint you want to use too. Now, I thought at first I was going to go over that, but I decided to sand that off. I don't want it to look like it's overlapping. I want it to look like it's right on the top. So you can see that I'm going to show you. If you leave it on the edge, it's going to definitely give you a different look, but you may like that look. So say you do like that look, you can leave it just like that and go ahead and put your wax on there. If you get any over on the front, it's okay because we're going to age this a little bit, so it's not going to be a problem. So grabbing a very little bit of that wax, I mean a very little bit. In fact, we're just using what's on that paper at this point. I'm going to just flick my fingers back and forth with the brush over the edge to bring a little bit of that aging right across the edges. If you add more, be sure that you're being really careful where your pieces meet. So if you're halfway through and you need to load some more paint on there, just be sure that it's the same all the way around. I'm going to richen up the center, darken that up just a little bit on the sunflowers, only the sunflowers, but it makes such a difference, I think. Such a subtle difference, but really gives you that little, I wonder what she did there. Now we're going to make a hanger for it. Just going to go right through the top of my little wood board. And if you get a little, if you find a little wood board at Dollar Tree that you can use, go ahead and just use it. Do the same thing. If you've got those little signs that Dollar Tree sells all the time, the narrow, long signs, you could do that. It doesn't have to be a breadboard. You could do the same type of technique on that. Whatever you like. Make it your own. So now I'm cutting down 2 of those pieces of yellow. Make sure the edges are nice and crisp. No little squared off edges. We want it to look complete, finished, and that we paid attention to the detail. Just 2 of them, crossing them over each other, grabbing a piece of jute. This is very simple. This is the easiest one that we have done in this video. And I know a lot of people don't like bows, so if you don't want a bow on your piece, don't even have to worry about putting a bow on there. Do it however you like it, whatever floats your boat, tickles your fancy, lights your candle, whatever you want to call it. Just do it your way. I can put my bow here, or I can put my bow here. And I think I like it down a little bit. So I'll add some hot glue and stick it down to the handle of my breadboard. And I like that very much. Very cute. You can hang that in your kitchen, or you could put it on your back porch. Here is that piece in all of its beauty, brightness, and glory. I love the rustic look of this. I think all of those pieces together look very nice and complement one another. I think they would look good anywhere in your home, but a covered porch would be really spectacular, I think, especially if you tend toward neutral colors. This will really bring some pattern and beauty to your backyard. Thanks for watching. Check out the rectangle. See you soon.